Stitch Roadies, how are you? Are you surviving this heat bubble if you're in the West? Yes, we are expecting, starting today, triple-digit temperatures. Thank goodness for air conditioning. I think they said on the news that it had been 200 years since we had this kind of heat for this extended period of time. And I'm here to tell you, thank goodness for air conditioning. I can't say that enough. You know, in Oregon, there used to be, back in the 80s, very few places that had air conditioning. It just wasn't a thing. And the temperatures didn't fluctuate like they do now. But maybe 25 or 30 years ago, we ended up in our first home that had what was called either an air conditioner or a heat pump. And once we experienced that, it's kind of like one of those things that you never go back. And so that was one of the things we always looked at when we were moving to a new place, was, does it have a heat pump? So yes, we are very grateful for the air conditioner here and ice water. The ice at the stores, I went to the store yesterday and it was crazy. People were like prepping for heat, yeah. And so a lot of the shelves were empty and the ice was like flying out of the store. Well, let me say, welcome. If you're new, this channel is not just about me and my stitching. It is about our community of stitchers. So if you decide to stick around, be sure and take a look at the comments, because people may ask questions or give me suggestions that might be beneficial to you. Or you might be able to share your own knowledge with someone who's asking, because by no means is this channel based on tutorials or I am not the end-all be-all for cross-stitching. I am just a girl who's looking to finish a project in the best way possible. Not always the easiest way, and I try everything. So you will learn what not to do and what to do if you decide to stay around. So as you notice, I am filming this, boy does that date me, videoing this in my living room. And the reason being is that, as you saw at the beginning of this video, a little segment of the Korean dress, which is called a hanbok. And I had a couple questions about that dress. Back when I was a little girl, I never met my maternal grandmother where I was knowledgeable. I mean, I left Korea when I was under a year old. And so I have no memory of that grandmother. And so I never met her before she passed away. But when I was like about 4 years old, she sent me a dress. And it's that dress that hangs over this cabinet here. And I wore that dress and danced in public, the traditional Korean dances. We lived in, at that time we lived in the projects, what was called the projects, and it was exactly what it sounds like. It was building after building of utilitarian apartments that housed all the ethnic groups that were in my hometown. So we had Filipino, we had Hispanic, we had African American, and then there was this little Korean girl. And once in a while they would have a international picnic celebration, and everybody would dress in their traditional dresses from their family. And so I dressed in that dress, and I would do the traditional dance. I can almost see myself dancing in my mind. And the newspaper, I have a newspaper clipping of 3 of us kids together, and I'm dressed in the hanbok, and my friend was dressed in her Filipino dress, and I think the other one was a little boy in a Hispanic and a sombrero. So it was a very fun time, a very all-inclusive little environment at that time. And we lived there for, I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 years, but I always had that dress folded up. And then back in the early 90s, I decided to, instead of just packing that dress around, I decided to take it to a framer in between Bend and Redmond, Oregon, and see if he could frame it for me, and he did. He actually sewed the dress onto the backing and did a beautiful frame job of it, and it's been traveling with us from house to house, and most recently was in the condo in downtown Portland. So it's so fun to have it back here. That whole consolidating of our places where we spend time has allowed us to bring together all those little mementos and things that we love in one spot. And so this room here is all about my heritage and experiences, which is just, it's such a relaxing room. And we have photographs that G took when we, on our last trip to South Korea. He used to be an art photographer, and so we had these particular color photos. He did, we used to have a dark room in every house, but these particular photos were color photos he took, and they hung actually in the county building down in Deschutes County for a year. So that was, it was fun to get those back and to have them hanging here because they remind us of our trip where we spent weeks in South Korea. So it was, it's fun. It's fun to look around this room. And on that same cabinet, you might have seen a little Korean woman, a doll in a glass cover. And that doll was also given to me by my grandmother, which is called homoni in Korean. And she, when I had that doll, it was at the same time I was doing the dancing. I entered it into the Parks and Recs display, and so she has a little ribbon attached to the front of her that says Parks and Recs Department ribbon, you know. And I've had that. She's very fragile, so I put her under a glass dome, and so that's the history of that. Just what you wanted to hear me babbling all about that, huh? Well, I have to tell you that I decided to, as often as I can remember to do it, is to share with you my new favorite thing. And my new favorite thing is my Berkey water filter. And I'll put a link. I'm not affiliated with them, and I don't get anything from it if you decide to get one. I'm just sharing this with you because it's a good thing. This takes me back to when I was traveling through China, and I remember being made somewhat aware and concerned when a bottle of water in China cost more than a bottle of Coke. And I remember at that time thinking, this may be our new crisis, is water. Because I mean, China was already having it back in the, 20 years ago. So I started thinking about it this last month because of the different news things I was reading about water and lack of chlorine to clean the water. And then in Sacramento there was something that said the water tasted like dirt, and every so often there's a plant that overflows, and then there's like saying be careful, and the Willamette, there's an E. coli, something or other, So I started researching, and we had watched many RV travelers who travel with a Berkey. And it is a water filter. It doesn't hook, it's non-electrical. It's gravity fed water filter that really filters out 99.9% of all contaminants. Arsenic, lead, chlorine, viruses, bacterias. So I decided, and it's pretty, it's a chrome thing that sits on your counter. It's like another appliance. So I ordered one, and we have this last week been filtering our drinking water, because we drink a ton of water, and with this heat. Well, between 2 days apart, there's a lot of people thinking just like me. 2 days apart, I ordered a travel Berkey for the van, because that was always a concern of mine when we were camping, that I did not like hooking up to different cities' water. I don't know what their criteria is. I don't know how clean that is, and drinking out of my faucet. I didn't like it. I'm a little bit more paranoid that way. And so I knew that I was going to get a Berkey for the van. And it just is going to mean that when we travel, we take it off the counter and lay it on the bed. No biggie. Then I decided, well, I probably should get one for my daughter-in-law and son who live here, because there's been a chlorine shortage, and they've got 2 little kids at home. And between that day, 2 days later, that one size of the Berkey was sold out. Yeah, there are a lot of other people that are on the same prepper train thought as I am. So that's my new favorite thing, and I'll put a link if you're interested at all in it, and a video that I watched of a gal who, it's a part of their family. So, okay, so that's my best new thing this week. Now, how about cross stitch, right? You're tired of hearing me babble. I'll take a drink here. I got 2 pieces of mail that, well, actually 3 pieces of mail. My my Lady Dot Creates, see, I haven't even opened it. My Lady Dot Creates order came. And so now I'm going to be ready if I ever want to, and I just love the way the pom-poms look. So I bought a variety of different colors of pom-poms. They are so pretty. They are so pretty, so I got those. Oh. It's kind of like stocking your larder, isn't it? It's like stocking your larder. And then from Jane, thank you so much, Jane. I could not believe it when I opened this up. Now, Jane had contacted me and said she had some Prairie Schooler Santas that she was willing to just pass along the stash. And I was like, yes, please. And she sent me, I mean, all of these. all of these prairie schooler Santas. I mean, and since I have decided that when one can never not have a prairie schooler going, and I would like to finish one a month so I have at least 6 or 7 by Christmas, it's so fabulous. And so now I'm bound and determined to find the years that are not represented in this. So I'm going to be on the hunt. But there were 2 in this fabulous pile. I mean, look at this. It's fish. It's fish. And a garden Santa. Sunflower Santa. Oh my gosh, ABCs. I mean, this is like, I felt like like I won the lottery. I won the Prairie Schooler Santa lottery. When I went through the stack, there were 2 that I already had. This one that I'm currently stitching right now, and this one that I just finished. It's the 2021. So I'm going to pass the stash on to one of you. So if you are interested in the Prairie Schooler Santa, in the comments, just say Santa. We'll make it easy. Just say Santa. And all I ask is that you subscribe to the channel. That just helps the channel. So I'll pass these on. I had a blast stitching this one, the 2021, with the owl and the pheasant, the raccoon. Oh, it just is so cute. And currently, this one with the sewing machine and stocking is just so much fun. So let me just show you where I'm at on that. I'm now working on the sewing machine. And here's the thing. I know that life is busy and I have the same issues that everyone else has about keeping up on Flosstubes. But when I do go watch a Flosstube, inevitably I will learn something. And one of those Flosstubes that I keep coming back to and back to because I pick up a tip, and so I'm passing it on to you, but you must check her out, is Cassie Jo Stitches. I'm telling you, that girl, it's so fun to know that there's younger people than me that are picking up the thing, and that she's teaching her daughter too, and that her daughter's so cute and enthusiastic. But what has helped me with all of my stitching is a tip that Cassie Jo gave in one of her more recent Flosstubes. And that was to keep herself from getting bored, which is one of my big bugaboos. Bugaboos board. The triple B bugaboo board. That's clever. Yeah. Is that when she stitches a color, when she uses up that thread, she doesn't force herself to do this whole red area. When she's doing a house, you know how dense those houses are? When she's done stitching a length of thread, she'll move to a different spot and stitch something else in a different color. And then when she's done there, she'll go back and stitch some more bricks on a house. It was so simple, and yet, in this particular case, I've been trying that, and it has been fabulous. Fabulous for if you have that kind of brain that you wonder why you lose your momentum. It's maybe you're pressuring yourself to do something that your heart just isn't into. So why not let the colors make you keep going? I loved it. I loved it. So that's what I've been doing on this particular, that's why I didn't force myself to get that whole coat done. I decided I would get stocking, used up the red thread there, then I went over the sewing machine. When I used up a length of black thread, then I went and did some more of the red. It's kind of like the one thread a day on those projects that are daunting because they're so huge. Now I haven't had a big push with that one thread a day on those, but I realized that it's because it's summertime. There's a lot of activity to summertime, and to make yourself do something makes it more like a job, when in reality your brain has been trained since childhood that it's vacation time. Don't you get it? Don't you get it? Yeah, it's vacation time. So I know that that one thread a day on those big projects is going to come back in the come back in the fall, when we're more inside and life starts changing the cadence a little bit differently. So don't be hard on yourself if you can't keep it up. Okay, so remember, if you want to be in the drawing for those Prairie Schooler Santas, and thanks to Jane, I get to pass them on, be sure that you put Santa in the comment and that you subscribe to my channel. I think that Acorns and Threads has been, let me just say, this is cruel and unusual punishment. Torture. Stitch torture. Yes, I'm signed up for Liz Matthews' Zoom workshop tomorrow. And it came in the mail, and it said, don't open it till the Zoom. So here I have 2 packages that I have not opened, and I've tried to look, but I can't quite see it. That's just mean. Mean. But I can't wait till tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And I know some people are so over the Zoom. I don't care. Any way I can have fun, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Any way I can have fun. I have a second giveaway on this channel. Subscribe. And in this giveaway, look at this, I have a finish. The gnomes are done. I think I got spurred on to finish the gnomes because they were sitting, sitting on a Q-snap, and Cheryl came over from Stitching with the Sisterlies, and she thought, oh, that's such a cute project. I said, I have not been able to stitch on that project ever since I found out that that wasn't a baby gnome in the corner. Now, for those of you who are newer to the channel, you may not realize that I originally started this thinking it was going to be a birth sampler, because I thought this right here was a gnome in a baby carriage. I mean, I just did. I don't know why. It was like this automatic, I forget what they call that, when you see something and it's like cemented in your brain. It's like, I just thought it was a baby in a baby carriage, a baby gnome. And then several of the channel's viewers let me know that that was probably a sleeping gnome. One person said, I think it's a drunk gnome. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? And I looked closer at the pattern and I was like, Oh my God, babies don't have beards. I tell you, sometimes I wonder about myself. Sometimes I just wonder about myself. So then I just stopped. I stopped stitching it at that point because I was like, oh my gosh. But then when Cheryl saw it on the floor, she said, that's so cute. It's so cute. You should just do it. So I did. And it is absolutely an adorable pattern. It is so freaking cute. I mean, yeah. And it's designed by one of my favorite designers. I like Jardin Privé, which translates in French to private garden. So anybody who would like to stitch this gnome chart, in the comments, just put gnomes. Just put gnomes in the comment, you know, that you like the gnomes. And we'll do that. So we'll have 2 giveaways. Just be a subscriber. And pass on the knowledge about the channel. We need some fresh blood here, don't we? I talked about this before, Flatter. This is by Soak Incorporated. This particular one is pineapple. I can't do the flower scented ones, although they smell lovely. So I usually buy the unscented or the fruit, and this one is a pineapple one. And it takes the wrinkles out of the project. So this one, you know, the last part of it I stitched in hand, so it was all wrinkled up. And I sprayed it with Flatter and then pressed it. And it takes, Flatter is an organic compound. It's not a starch. It's a fabric relaxer. And so I spray it and then I steam iron, and it takes all the wrinkles out because it relaxes the fibers. And that is what I did. I decided my Renato Perelin trees. Someone asked me how big a piece of fabric, so I thought I would talk about this. Now, Renato Perelin has this pattern. They have an Etsy shop, so you can get the pattern on there. But it's trees, and it is humongous. So as you can see, I have to agree, it's gorgeous. It's only half done. So the piece of fabric that I have is 15 inches wide by 60 inches long. And I'm just using DMC white. I don't know the name, the color of the fabric. It's kind of like more of a mute, it's not a baby blue, it's got a little bit of gray tone to it. It's a solid color though, it's not hand dyed, but I love it. And it is, that's just half of it. That is just half of it. And so we're about at the end, but I wanted to just show you one last thing since I'm sitting out in my living room. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? G's father used to be a weaver. Yes, he would actually go out in Eastern Oregon, get some sheep's wool, dye it organically, like he would get plants and get the color out of plants, although I don't think this isn't one that he dyed, but we have some here that he dyed with plant colors. But he used to weave, and his designs were amazing. And so we have some of those, and I wanted this one to stay here in the living room, which is really nice. Yeah. Okay, that was enough, huh? It was just enough. So remember, Prairie Schooler Santa, use Santa. Gnomes, use gnomes. And you can use both in the same. Just be sure that you really are a subscriber. And tell your friends about us. We're a great group of friends here. Okay? And I'll see you next week when I am done with my Zoom class and I show what that was all about. And you'll probably see it all over the internet and on Instagram. So take care, stay cool, drink lots of water, and I just love hanging out with you. See you next time.